The records speak of a quiet mountain where the air trembled with unseen energy, and yet no war drums sounded. In recap, martial God Asura, chapter 441, chapter 442, Feng and Ling linger in solitude, their faces marked by months of growth and hardship, their hearts heavy with unspoken fears. Ling's breakthrough into the heaven realm has cast a fleeting purple bell across the skies, a whisper of the chaos that power can summon, yet only they witness it. Between them, a fragile tension simmers, love and strategy entwined, choices weighed against life itself. The chapters ahead will test not just strength, but the very bonds that hold them together, and the mountains themselves may bear witness to what neither time nor heavens can undo. The wind howled across the desolate mountains, carrying with it the faint scent of danger and ancient power. In that remote wilderness, hidden from the prying eyes of the world, a young man named Feng sat in silent meditation, his eyes reflecting the sharp clarity of one who had endured countless trials. Beside him, the ever-enigmatic Ling moved with the grace of a willow in the breeze, yet beneath her serene composure simmered the quiet intensity of hidden troubles. The tale I am about to recount is one of cultivation, of unyielding love, and of hearts tested in the crucible of martial destiny. Feng's mind was no longer a storm of restless anxiety. The words of Egi, the formidable world spirit whose power once shook the heavens, lingered in his consciousness. Egi had lived among the ethereal expanses of the spirit world, and even there, her understanding of mortal struggles and secret techniques was unmatched. Her guidance had become a compass, steadying Feng's course amidst the chaos of the 9 provinces. No longer did he wander recklessly, seeking conflict with the disciples of the 6 great powers. Instead, he embarked on a quieter path, delving into the tombs of forgotten masters to refine source energy, gathering treasures long hidden from mortal eyes. Time flowed like a silver river, unrelenting and gentle all at once. Months passed, and the naivete that had once marked Feng and Ling began to fade. Ling blossomed into a woman of ethereal beauty, her presence both captivating and formidable. Feng, now 17, had grown into the stature and poise of a true cultivator, the weight of responsibility etched into every movement. Ling, at 16, mirrored his transformation, maturity tempered with strength, innocence now intertwined with resolve. Their journeys were not confined to the 9 provinces. Together, they ventured to distant continents, uncovering the remnants of ancient masters whose legacies had long been buried. Both Ling and Egi's world spirit reaped the fruits of these explorations. Ling broke through to the heaven realm's 3rd tier, her aura radiating a newfound intensity. Egi ascended to the 9th tier of the profound realm, leaving Feng lagging by 3 levels in comparison. Yet, for all the wealth of resources he had acquired, the cultivator's path remained steep. The treasures he gathered, monumental by ordinary standards, were mere grains before the horizon of his ambition. His own cultivation lingered at the 6th tier of the profound realm, progress slow but steady. The shadow of time loomed over them. The 2-year limit to save Su-Ru and Su-Mei was drawing near. Less than a year remaining. Worry gnawed at Feng's heart with every passing day, a silent drumbeat of urgency. And then, at long last, Ling, after countless attempts and setbacks, shattered the barrier before her. She entered the heaven realm, and the heavens themselves seemed to tremble at the event. The sky, once clear and boundless, was momentarily cloaked in layers of purple radiance. A bell, faint yet immense, shimmered in the ethereal light, resonating with a power that could obliterate all in its path. But the calamity was restrained, contained within the remote mountains where Feng and Ling had taken refuge. After her breakthrough, Ling's gaze, usually calm and unreadable, carried the weight of a long-brewing resolve. Feng, she began, her voice a mixture of steel and warmth. We cannot remain idle. With my newfound strength, I can contend with warriors in the 6th tier of the heaven realm. We must return to the Fire God School and claim the resources it hoards, amassed over centuries. They can elevate your cultivation to the 7th tier of the profound realm. Feng's heart thundered, yet his response was immediate, a firm refusal. No. He did not hesitate, for he understood the peril. Even with her divine body and the blessing of heaven, Ling faced enormous risks confronting such formidable foes. His feelings for her were no longer mere affection, they were devotion. A life entwined with hers was worth more than any power he could seize. To risk her life, even for the promise of untold cultivation, was unthinkable. Ziling's eyes shimmered with determination, her confidence unwavering. I can succeed, Chu Feng. I can return with everything. Then I will go with you. His words were resolute, yet she shook her head in gentle refusal. See, you do not truly believe in victory. Otherwise, why would you deny me? She countered softly. Chu Feng's gaze locked onto hers, fierce and unwavering. At that time, your death would be mine as well. I cannot allow you to face this alone. For a fleeting moment, Ziling's lips parted as if to argue, yet the strength of his conviction silenced her. She bowed her head, the unspoken weight of her feelings pressed into quiet surrender. And then, a question that had lingered between them found its voice. Ziling, since you love me so much, why cannot we be together, just once? I have told you, Chu Feng, she replied with gentle firmness. I cannot. The power within me, if stirred by such intimacy, may awaken, yes, but some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. I cannot grant this. Chu Feng's heart ached, yet he understood. The moment spent in her presence, the agony of restraint, had brought clarity to a truth he could not ignore. Love, true and unyielding, was not a force to be manipulated. It was to be honored. A hush fell between them. Ziling's eyes glimmered with tears, reflecting the light of the setting sun. They traced paths down her delicate cheeks, marking a vulnerability rarely seen by any mortal. Chu Feng, usually composed, felt panic claw at his chest. Her tears were his undoing, and he would have surrendered everything to spare her a single sorrow. I am sorry, Ziling. I did not know of your hidden troubles, he whispered, hands gently wiping the streams from her face. The first time he had seen her cry, the fortress of her heart exposed, a storm rose within him. Every fiber of his being trembled at the thought of her suffering. Ziling lifted her head, her gaze steady yet fragile. I will never speak of this again. I promise. You need not worry yourself with it. In that moment, Chu Feng swore to himself that nothing, no desire, no ambition, no power, would ever outweigh her presence in his life. Ziling's heart, even with its concealed burdens, had become his world. And he, a young cultivator amid the tempest of destiny, would walk the path by her side, come what may, guarding her with every ounce of his strength. Thus, in the wild mountains, under skies that had briefly trembled at heaven's wrath, their story continued. A tale of martial trials, boundless love, and the quiet courage that blooms when two hearts face the storm together. In the vast expanse of the 9 provinces, where legends of martial might and heavenly cultivation whispered through the mountains and rivers, a tale of fury and vengeance began to stir. Listen closely, for this is a story of wrath that even the heavens dared not ignore. Whoa! A sudden, heart-wrenching cry cut through the still air. Ziling, the young prodigy whose very presence had toppled armies and whose divine body carried the blessings of the gods, did the unthinkable. She leapt into Chu Feng's embrace. Her small hands clung to his neck with desperate strength, unwilling to let go, tears streaming silently down her face. In that fragile moment, the world's perception of her power shattered. Even the mightiest of warriors harbor their weaknesses, and Ziling's was this, her heart, tender and unguarded. Chu Feng responded instinctively, enveloping her in a firm embrace. Yet this time there was no reckless touch, no fumbling attempt to comfort. He merely let his palms glide through her silken hair, a gentle rhythm to soothe the storm raging within her. Chu Feng, let's return to the 9 provinces, back to Azure Province. I want to see my sisters. Ziling's voice trembled with earnest resolve, her gaze unflinching. Chu Feng nodded, the memories of Suru, Sumei, and the warmth of family and kin stirring deep within him. So atop the exquisite chariot they soared through the skies. The wind tore past them as they pressed onward, each moment bringing them closer to the lands of their past, yet farther from the peace they once knew. Their journey would not be swift. The path stretched over half a month, spanning the Tang province, crossing the Yuan province, until finally reaching the familiar soils of Azure Province. But even as they entered the Tang province, the air itself seemed charged with ill tidings. News arrived like twin lightning bolts, striking both awe and horror into their hearts. First, a tale of ruthless ambition. Morong Yu, the young head of Sword God Valley, had fallen to Xianxia's hand. The valley's treasured divine wood sword was seized, a symbol of power now claimed by one of Azure Province's own. Murmurs of shock rippled across the 9 provinces. Peace had barely held sway during Chu Feng's absence. Yet now, the Azure Province's rise was heralded by 2 unstoppable forces, heedless of heaven and earth alike. Yet the second revelation ignited a blaze within Chu Feng far beyond the ordinary. Sword God Valley, consumed by grief and rage, had unleashed a horror upon the land. Murongyu's father, maddened by loss, led the valley's forces into Azure Province. The once proud Azure Dragon School lay in ruins, its halls flattened, its people slaughtered. Thousands perished, innocent and unconnected to Chu Feng or Zhang Tianyi, their lives extinguished by vengeance misdirected. The valley's leader justified it all with cruel words. If one lived within the Azure Dragon School's domain, they were fair prey. Their blood, a currency for retribution. The 9 provinces shuddered at such inhumanity. The Jiang dynasty, meant to be the guardians of law, turned blind eyes. The Qilin prince's mansion, rulers of Azure Province, merely watched. Contempt and whispers of scorn swept through the lands like wildfire. And yet, Chu Feng's patience had limits. The injustice was bearable, but the profaning of his family, the desecration of his loved ones' remains, was a transgression that no mortal heart could endure. The Sword God Valley's cruelty did not end with the living. Tombs of Azure Dragon School's venerable ancestors were unearthed. Desecrated, the remains of Chu Feng's kin long at rest were exhumed. Bones were carved with curses, destined to rot as pigs and dogs for eternity, if not retrieved within a month. The threat hanging like a sword over Chu Feng's soul. Rage ignited in him, a fire that could melt stone and split mountains. His resolve crystallized. Sword God Valley would pay a price that would echo through history. To defile his family, especially his foster father, was a crime beyond the heavens of Lai's own laws. Dragons have opposite scales that must never be touched, Chu Feng murmured to himself, eyes burning. This opposite scale, his family, was sacrosanct. Once weak, he would have sought vengeance without thought. Now, stronger than ever, his wrath would be merciless, precise, and terrifying. Half a month's journey later, the azure skies of his homeland came into view. The leaning mountain town, once alive with memory, now lay in ruin. Graves, sacred and revered, were hollowed, words mocking him etched upon the earth. Chu Feng, you trash! If you have the guts, come to the Sword God Valley. Fists clenched so tightly that the bones threatened to shatter, Chu Feng's body trembled with the raw surge of bloodlust. Every heartbeat echoed a vow of retribution. His family had been insulted, his ancestors disrespected. There could be no mercy, no delay. Yet before he could even act, a sound tore through the horizon. Thunder, or the growl of the heavens themselves. The rumble grew, shaking the very sky, a presence so potent it made the air vibrate. Chu Feng and Ling braced themselves, expecting ambush. Yet what approached was unlike anything they had prepared for. A figure streaked toward them, young yet formidable. Sword-like brows, eyes alight like stars, a visage both radiant and commanding. He was a cultivator of the heaven realm's 3rd level, surpassing Ling's strength despite his youthful countenance. Lightning seemed to bow to his speed, and the aura that surrounded him could shatter mountains. This was no ordinary man. He was a herald of destiny, stepping into the storm of wrath and vengeance. Chu Feng had long prepared to unleash. The stage was set, the heavens watched, and Chu Feng's story of fury, honor, and the inviolable scales of family was only beginning.